All right, having said all of this, what are the tips for writing a good literary review? And here are the tips. First, avoid using translation devices to do the writing. I found so many Chinese students, particularly graduate students, that write the Chinese and then translate them into English using any kind of translation devices and immediately submit the manuscript to a journal. And the next day, or within the same day, you got a rejection reply. The paper is not suitable for publication for the journal. Now you know why. Because writing is awful. Now you have attended my talk so far, you know how awful that is, because each sentence may look good, but when we put them together, they look awful. They look awkward. And it does not have the fluency, the cohesiveness a typical English writing has. It comes from nowhere. So, don't use it. Second, avoid using Chinese to write English. I know it is hard to do it because a lot of our Chinese write Chinese and translate it in English. Gradually, you learn to write in English, and your English will be a lot better, because when you write in Chinese, you still think in Chinese. Think about how you write about it, your topic, issue, in Chinese, and translate your Chinese way of thinking into English, and does not go along with the sentence structure or the coherent structure of English writing. I know this is hard, but try to change. Thirdly, avoid using abbreviations without defining them. Say in a sentence, ABC, PSU. What does it mean? I don't know. So you use it, you have to define it before you use it. Fourthly, define and explain key concepts, terms at the very beginning. Because you don't think I know everything about this topic. You have to assume that I know little about this topic, so you have to define the concept for my convenience, and that's called writer awareness. And the fifth, present your ideas from broad to specific. So step by step, present your ideas or your literary review in such a way. Sixth, translate your ideas naturally. Do not make sudden jump. A typical Chinese way of writing is that you write something and without any signal words or reader cues, you jump to another topic. So I don't know what's the logic behind your writing. Only you know yourself. So you only succeed in upsetting the reader, not impressing the reader. Seventh, write brief sentences. Do not write such a long sentence. I see those writing that a whole paragraph has 2 sentences. You use a lot of phrases, clauses to write something. For me, I find it so hard to find the verb of your sentence. So write short sentences that I can understand more readily and more easily. Eighth, check exemplary papers. I said this many times. Before you write your paper, please look through the exemplary papers that you have accumulated before, and you will write as a native speaker of English would write. Ninthly, check guidelines for writing of the target journal. I said this many times, make sure you follow the guidelines. Do not upset the editor with such low-level, stupid mistakes. And the 10th is develop a cohesive style of writing. Keep these tips in mind. To help you remember, at the beginning, I was talking about the 5-color marking method for intensive reading of exemplary articles. And this will help you understand how sentences were structured. in a cohesive way. And remember this, I showed this earlier. This is how you should read and have an intensive reading of this examinatory papers. And you should also do source tracking, as I explained this earlier, that you have the phrases, ideas or sentences, and you have the citations and sources. This will, in the beginning, it may look troublesome, hard for you. In the end, it really serves you because it makes referencing so convenient. Of course, you don't need to do this for every piece of information, but you have to do this for the major piece of information. It will help you, trust me. And this is an example of a brief and cohesive writing. And you can see of this short passage, the sentences all in active voice, in a cohesive style, and also in short sentences. And here is another example of a parallel cohesiveness, that the two paragraphs will actually echo and correspond to each other in terms of its content or organization of the content. Can you see the correspondence now? I give you some time. Now, time is up. Let's see the answer. Now, this is the Western view of humor. You can see after heading is the definition, is the history, and then is the quotation, and then some sort of a summary of what has been talked above. And here is the Chinese view on humor. It's also the heading, history, and also the definition. And then there was the quotation and a summary of the importance. So there was a parallelism or correspondence between one paragraph, one passage to the other. And this is called a cohesiveness. That when writing a literary review, you learn to find relevant publications, analyze them critically, and propose what you plan to study with new purposes and hypotheses. So in other words, a good literary review not only summarizes the sources of information, but also critically evaluates them to give a whole picture of the state of knowledge on the subject matter. Having said all of this, I want to present to you my advisor's advice on academic writing. I told you my advisor wrote many articles and many books. So one day I asked him, what are the advice that you can give me as a young and new writer, fresh writer of English writing? And this is his advices. First, write short sentences. Don't write a sentence like a paragraph. Remember this. When you write a sentence, you can quickly find a word. When you write a sentence like a paragraph, you lost where the verb is. Second, break up paragraphs. Don't write a paragraph over a page. Some people like to write long sentences for a paragraph, and it could be whole paragraph without any break, so people find it hard to read. But when you break into different paragraphs, it's easier to read. Thirdly, use headings well or wisely. Do not write paragraphs without proper headings. In other words, when you break all these paragraphs with headings, I can see the changing flow of thoughts. I can see different focuses that you write. It makes reading easier, and this is called writer awareness. And fourthly, use simple words. Don't use fancy words for dictionary checkup. That means your word is so difficult, I have to check a dictionary to know what it means. Why don't you write something that's simple? I don't have to constantly look for a dictionary. I get frustrated or exhausted of constantly checking out dictionaries. And then fifthly, use cute words. Do not let people feel bored with your writing. Remember this. This is how you will keep up your writing style. And this is a joyful moment with my advisor. And with this, I hope you can produce quality literary review. Thank you.